Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. National pick, 6 games this week. Doug Lesmerises, along with Bill Landis. Landis, I was terrible last week. I was 2-5. You were 3-4. Can we turn it around?
I think so. This feels like the week. Let's do it. We both had losing records. I think was it the first time in a while? I think we both had losing records.
I love when you say things like that because it's the first time in a while that you've had a losing record and I've had a losing record the whole season. So thank you for saying it that way.
Sure.
So you are 28-29 on the year against the spread now. I am 25-32. So I got to pull my head out. 6 games this week. We're going to start with a game in the American Athletic Conference, South Florida at Memphis. Then we have 3 Big Ten games that we want to get into: Northwestern, Nebraska, Illinois, Washington, and Iowa, Minnesota. And then we'll hit on 2 SEC games at the end. But this, we've been sort of tracking this American race, Landis, and South Florida at Memphis at noon on Saturday remains one of these games that really matters. Memphis is a home underdog getting 5.5. And part of this is like it got a little weird last week. Memphis was upset by UAB. And that was the first loss of the season for Memphis. UAB was coming off the firing of Coach Trent Dilfer. Alex Mortensen, the son of the late, great ESPN football insider Chris Mortensen, was the interim coach. They won their first game. Memphis's quarterback got hurt in that game, and they put in a true freshman who was a top 150 national recruit that Memphis beat Florida for. This was like maybe A.J. Hill was maybe the biggest recruiting win in Memphis history. And Ryan, is it Silverfield or Silverfield? Silverfield. Yeah. The fields and the felds get me sometimes, I'll admit. Ryan Silverfield has been a little like about who's going to be quarterback this week. Is it going to be Brendan Lewis, who'd been the starter? Is he going to be healthy enough? Or is it going to be A.J. Hill as a true freshman? Is it maybe going to be somebody else? I'm actually on alert for like an A.J. Hill announcement this week, possibly, Landis. This is a 6'4" guy from Georgia who had SEC offers, who picked Memphis, and college football might be talking about him next week.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Do you know, so Ryan Silverfield, his name, like, he is among the most highly thought of G6 coaches, right? And
Sure.
his name comes up a lot when there are jobs open. You'll see his name on some lists even now. Not the top name, but like a name on a list when teams are looking for coaches. I don't know why.
Because he's friends with the media.
Well, like, I was just looking through some stuff to like try to get a feel for like what this Memphis program is actually about. So Mike Norvell, who's about to be fired as Florida State's head coach, in his last 3 seasons at Memphis, he went to the AAC championship game. And he won it in 2019. Silverfield took over in 2020, and he hasn't gone back. Like, they have not been to the conference title game with Silverfield. And do you know what his record is against ranked American Athletic Conference teams?
I do not.
1-4.
Okay.
He stinks.
Friend of the media. I don't. So Memphis is playing to stay in the race in the American, which means they're playing to stay in the race for the group of 6 playoff spot, but he's also staying in the race for a Power 4 job. Is that a great motivator? Do it for coach so he can make more money at another school.
Both these coaches are coaching to get P4.
That's
jobs.
True.
Alex Golesh, I think, more realistically than Ryan Silverfield.
Alex Golesh might have one. Like, is he not? I thought he was maybe like the betting favorite for Florida or something that I saw.
I don't know. I don't think Florida. So Florida like clearly wants Lane Kiffin. But if they don't get Lane, I don't know what they're going to do, and I can't imagine Golesh is too far down the list once they get past Kiffin.
Yeah. So Navy, South Florida, and Tulane are all undefeated in the American. Memphis, North Texas, East Carolina, and Temple all have 1 loss. We should be doing Temple picks on this show, and they blew it against Navy a couple weeks ago, and so we can't. Yeah. Seth Hennigan at Memphis took over as a starting quarterback when he was a freshman several years ago and was a 4-year starter, and he was pretty good right away as a freshman. I think they won like 6 games his freshman year. Like, they were ready for that. I just wonder if this A.J. Hill thing has a chance to be a boost for them, and that it's one of those things it wasn't their plan. Brendan Lewis is a transfer from Nevada. Like, it wasn't their plan. Even like in the offseason when Ryan Silverfield talked about it, it's like, you want to have a quarterback for the future, and I think you want to add an experienced guy. But AJ Hill last week when he came in was 13 of 25 for 175 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And so you are scaring me off a little bit of Ryan Silverfield, because I believe, again, your quote was he stinks, but I'm going to ride the freshman quarterback at home, and I'm going to take Memphis 31-28.
I've also been trying to pay more attention to what teams have actually done against the spread this year. Both of these teams are 6-1 against the spread this year.
Oh my.
Yeah, pretty good. More of USF's games have gone over. Most of Memphis's games have gone under.
And Memphis is like, statistically, Memphis's defense is pretty good statistically, better than USF.
Yeah, slightly better than USF. But some teams have thrown the ball on Memphis a little bit. Some of that could be game state, but if you look at just sort of like the passing yards and passing efficiency, teams have thrown on them a little bit. And I think USF will in this game too, in addition to running it. I think USF wins big. I got the Bulls 35-20.
Oh my. Okay. Like, I don't want to get off the Bulls, because go Alex Golish, Central Ohio native. I see it as I think it might be a little bit of a spot that Memphis is ticked. They shouldn't have lost. I mean, they lost to a team that fired its coach.
They were 24-point favorites, I think, in that game, and lost. So
like, their quarterback got hurt and they got upset by an emotional underdog. Mm-hmm. And now they're home in a must-win game. And if you're anything, like if you're a good program, you have to reset yourself here and figure this out. And the difference of putting a true freshman quarterback in the game when somebody gets hurt versus giving him a whole week of preparation, I think could be vast. And so we'll see. We're going head to head here. We'll see. Let's get to the Big Ten. There are 7 Big Ten games this week, and Ohio State and USC, for instance, are not playing. Every Big Ten game has some kind of playoff implications, except for Rutgers, Purdue. UCLA, Indiana. Indiana is a playoff team, and they got to keep winning. And UCLA has won 3 straight, and like, it's at Indiana, and they're a big favorite, but Kurt Cignetti is not going to let the Hoosiers sleep on this, so that matters. Michigan State, 7:30. This is obviously a rivalry. Michigan is a 2-loss team, one of the 8 2-loss teams in the Big Ten. They've got to stay in the race. They have to keep winning until they get to Ohio State, so that's a big game. Oregon, Wisconsin. Oregon, again, they're in good shape, but they can't get upset at home by Wisconsin. But then the 3 games that really matter, I would say 12 of the 18 teams in the Big Ten are still in the playoff race, because I would include UCLA in that race, because as you have pointed out, UCLA controls its own destiny to get to the Big Ten title game. So UCLA can win an automatic bid to the playoff. And then there are 11 other teams with 2 overall losses or fewer. So like, everybody in the Big Ten except Maryland, Penn State, Rutgers, Purdue, Wisconsin, Michigan State can still be thinking about the playoffs, Bill, in week 9. It is not a crazy thing for their fan base to be talking about that this week. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it is cool. If you gave me or strapped me to a lie detector and asked me, like, do I think many of these teams will make the playoff? I'll tell you no, but I think it's great that their hopes are still alive. Especially I think like Nebraska's season, right, has probably not gone exactly how they wanted to thus far, but like, they're still alive for like the thing they wanted to achieve, right? So it's very cool. No, that is the added benefit. I think everyone always was worried about the playoff like ruining the regular season. I just think it enhances it, because we have this situation where these fan bases can, however realistic you think it is, I think rightfully look at their schedule and think to themselves, like, if we do this, we have a shot to make it. I do think that's fun.
And they've been good enough so far that to say, like, man, if we went out, it's not close your eyes at the top of the hill on your bike and go down the hill and hope that you don't run into a tree. Like, you have some control of it, and you've been a good team, and you have things that you do well, and you have to find a way. So the 3 games that we're actually going to pick this week are the 3 games that are between 2-loss Big Ten teams. So I think there are 8 of them that have 2 overall losses, and of 6 of those 8 are playing each other. So again, in the playoff race, and again, And then if you're out, then you can still try to win 8 games. You can still try to make a bowl. There's still lots of things that these type of programs can feel good about. But Northwestern, Nebraska, Illinois, Washington, and Minnesota, Iowa are all games between 5 and 2 teams. And none of those teams are making the playoff with 3 losses, Bill. So the 3 losers of these games, when next week I come on and I try to say, oh, man, there's 16 teams in the Big Ten still in the playoff race, you're going to say, Doug, no, they're not. Because if you're 5 and 3, you're not in the playoff race, right? So like these 3 games are huge, right? They're huge.
They're gigantic. Yeah. They're all at like pretty tough places to play too.
Yes, they
at
are.
Nebraska, at Washington, at Iowa.
Yeah. So we're going to start with Northwestern at Nebraska because this is also a noon game. There are 3 Big Ten noon games this week: UCLA at Indiana, Northwestern at Nebraska, Rutgers at Purdue. Northwestern at Nebraska. Would it surprise you? Since Nebraska joined the Big Ten, Nebraska and Northwestern have played 13 times. Do you want to guess what the breakdown is in those head-to-head matchups? 13 games.
7-6 Northwestern.
7-6 Nebraska, but like not, it's just a reminder. It's like, hey, maybe Tom Osborne, like, oh, I don't know, like whatever, Dennis Green. It's like, no, it's like this. This has been like a really good competitive series. I don't know what to think about Nebraska. So I went back and I rewatched Nebraska, Minnesota, and Dylan Raiola got sacked 9 times in that game. Matt Rule was talking this week that he thought Dylan Raiola avoided like another 3 or 4 sacks. He put 3 of those 6 sacks on the running backs for their blitz pickup. But also early in that game, Dylan Raiola had a play where he was falling down on his face and put his hand on the ground and flipped the ball underhand to a guy for a catch. And he had another play where he was rolling out and threw the ball left-handed to a guy for a catch. And they called him, it was a Friday night game, they called him Baby Mahomes in the commercial leading into that. And he leaned into the Baby Mahomes stuff. And I think part of the Baby Mahomes stuff is like, I'm not letting go of this ball. I'll take 9 sacks. And even I think like Mark Gronowski talking about Iowa, Minnesota this week, I think the Iowa quarterback was asked about Minnesota sacking Dylan Raiola 9 times last week. And Mark Gronowski said something like, well, I think that quarterback held onto the ball a little bit. And then everybody was like, oh, shade. And it's like, well, he's right. It's like one of those things, again, it's like the singles hitter who hits a home run and starts swinging for the fences. Dylan Raiola made a couple Baby Mahomes plays early last week. And then Elijah Pritchett got ejected for targeting, but he's a tackle for Nebraska, and their tackles have been terrible all year. Rocco Spindler, their center, broke his finger, and he should be back this week. But he got in Baby Mahomes mode, and the result was he just thought he could escape every pass rusher in the universe, and Anthony Smith in Minnesota ate him alive. And I'm not sure if they're going to shake him out of Baby Mahomes mode. And if he doesn't get shaken out of Baby Mahomes mode, Northwestern shut out Purdue last week, I think Northwestern's going to be all over him if they're not careful.
Yeah, there's 2 things. Nebraska's offensive line is terrible, and Dylan Raiola is awful against pressure.
Yes,
some of it is like he's under it a lot, but like I was surprised to hear you say what Matt Rule said about Raiola avoiding sacks, as I thought he caused like 4 of them.
Yeah,
so it kind of bounces out. His pressure to sack rate this year is over 35%. It's double what it was last year. You should be getting better in that statistic as you get into your college career, not infinitely worse the way that Dylan Raiola is. And Northwestern's got a good front. Like, I don't know. I think they'll need more than that, I guess, to win the game. But it's part of the reason too. Like, I thought Nebraska was going to go to Maryland and struggles because like Maryland's got a pretty good defensive line, and like and Nebraska's offensive line is just really bad. Like, they put some money into it in the offseason, it hasn't worked. They paid for the wrong guys, and then they have a quarterback who's compounding all of their issues up front by, like you said, holding on to the ball way too long. It is if you just want to think about like styles and matchups and deficiencies and where teams are good, like it actually lines up pretty nicely here, I think, for Northwestern to keep this close, if not win, because of the struggles that Nebraska has in pass protection.
And if you haven't been paying attention, Northwestern's on a 4-game winning streak. They held UCLA to 14. They held Louisiana Monroe to 7. They held Penn State to 21, and they shut out Purdue last week. And Purdue has scored on some people this year. Mm-hmm. Purdue scored on USC.
Ryan Brown got hurt, right?
Notre Dame. I was actually at that game. Did he get hurt?
Ryan Brown
So
got hurt, and the kid from Arkansas came in, Malachi.
Oh yeah, but Ryan Brown was in a decent chunk of the game. Like they didn't shut out Purdue because Ryan Brown was hurt the whole game.
Right.
So and like we have to remember with Northwestern, like this UCLA turnaround, they fired Deshaun Foster, and then their first game they lost to Northwestern, and then they went on the winning streak. So I don't know. Is that a good win for Northwestern now? When Northwestern beat UCLA and UCLA almost came back at the end and won, nobody was like, what a great win for Northwestern. But Northwestern's now 5-2. And the thing is, in their 2 losses, week 1 to Tulane and week 3 to Oregon, Preston Stone, their quarterback, no touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 148 passing yards per game, 53% completion percentage. In their 5 wins, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, 183 passing yards per game, 62% completions. So when they lost, he threw 4 picks against Tulane, and they had no chance. He was giving the ball away. And now he's stopped doing that. And Preston Stone is like an established good quarterback. He was a starter at SMU 2 years ago. Griffin Wilde is like a real guy at receiver. They have 2 running backs they like, even though they lost their number 1 running back, Cam Porter, for the season to an injury early. Like Northwestern's a real team. And if Nebraska doesn't pull its head out, they have a chance to lose this. Nebraska at home is a 7.5-point favorite. And also, it just coalesced. And I just saw a tiny little bit of it from the angry edge of the Nebraska media, right? Matt Rule's doing a podcast. Matt Rule's talked about for the Penn State job. And that's cool and fine. But man, the first time you lose when you're doing stuff like that, people are going to be like, how about you stop your podcast and stop worrying about another job and do your job here? And there's a taste of that in Lincoln right now. So if they don't handle that, I mean, I will say, if they lose at home to Northwestern, I think it has a chance to get really ugly in Lincoln really fast. But they have to handle that right now to make sure that doesn't happen. And I'm not sure that they can.
I'm not sure that they can either. And I think it's a pretty big spot for Northwestern too, just in terms of bowl eligibility. Yeah, they play at USC, Michigan. I think they can beat Minnesota. Is that game at Wrigley?
Yes,
Minnesota game. Yeah, so they play Michigan, Minnesota back to back in Wrigley. I think they can beat Minnesota. But if you look at and they finish at Illinois, if you look at what they have left, this game and the Minnesota game are probably the 2 that feel most winnable for them. And I think David Braun's done a nice job, right? We talked about coming into the year, how many games does he have to win to be the coach that leads Northwestern into this new era with their new stadium next year? I think he's done that with getting them to 5-2.
And the Penn State win is a signature win for Northwestern, even though Penn State's not very good.
Right, but they still want to get to a bowl game, so they have to probably either win this one or win the Minnesota game. And I think they can win this one. I actually don't. My feel on this game is I really don't have any idea who's going to win, but I feel pretty strongly that Northwestern is going to cover.
I agree. That's exactly my opinion. 7.5 is too much in a game like this. And you're on alert. Obviously, the ceiling, right? The ceiling of Nebraska, if Dylan Raiola plays his best game, if they get the offensive line figured out, the ceiling is there.
Good defense.
They do. But there's there's a competence. Northwestern was scattered early. Northwestern went down and lost to Tulane in New Orleans. It was Northwestern might go 2-10. I don't know what this is. If Preston Stone's going to turn the ball over, is he going to get benched? Right. And that's not where and then their running back, their best skill guy, got hurt. And they still only have 1 receiver, but they know who they are, and they're coming off a really good defensive performance. I definitely think Northwestern could win. But I couldn't get all the way there, so I have Nebraska 20-16. But I agree, Northwestern plus 7.5 is great.
I have Nebraska 20-14.
Yeah, you do. Okay. This is worth keeping an eye on because it's Northwestern's interesting. Nebraska remains a signature program in the Big Ten. They're a pivot program in the Big Ten. This is one of those. Even before the season, I think a lot of people thought, okay, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, they're going to make the playoff. Then, who's the leader of the pack for the 4th playoff team for the Big Ten? Nebraska was pretty high on that list. And, here they are. It's still possible for them, but they have to get their stuff together. And No, go ahead.
So I think a lot of people just sort of assume that Matt Rule is going to be Penn State's next head coach. Penn State can't hire a guy who also loses to Northwestern, right? Like, is that at stake here at all for Matt Rule? It's like, you need to better start winning, or your dream job might slip through your fingers.
No, I think that's definitely true. I mean, the difference between hiring 7-win or 8-win Matt Rule versus hiring 10-win Matt Rule, because he already has the same thing of James Franklin. I'm not winning big games, right? But so I don't know, is he going to be able to really shake that? He doesn't have Ohio State left on the schedule or anything like that. So
USC.
The best he can do is be competent, right, and be solid. So I don't know. Again, that's not where I would go. It's too obvious, and I don't think he. Yeah, you're right. We've had 2 straight games there where we've talked about coaches. The teams want to try to still get somewhere, but also there's. I don't think David Braun's a contender for the Penn State job, but who knows? But we've talked about 2 games, 3 coaches so far that they're playing for their next job as well. So that's also on the table here for Matt Rule. All right. So we both have Nebraska, but we have Northwestern covering. Next is another huge one. Illinois at Washington. This is 3:30. This line opened at Washington -4.5. It's now Washington -3.5. One thing that I think is really important here, Bill, is it feels like Washington thinks they might get 2 starting offensive linemen back. Carver Willis, their left tackle, has been out since getting hurt against Ohio State. And John Mills, their left guard, has been out for 2 games. Jed Fish said this week that both of them are trending well. So he didn't say they're back, wasn't a designation, but it's kind of the kind of thing a coach says early in the week. And I think you talked about it last week, I think, when Michigan beat Washington in the Big House, and Washington had a hard time blocking Michigan. And part of that is because Michigan showed once again that its defense is still legit, but also their backup left tackle got hurt in that game. And so they're playing their 3rd string left tackle for parts of that game. And that 3rd string left tackle gave up 3 pressures and 15 pass blocking snaps. If they can get the left side of their offensive line back, I think that is obviously huge for them. It could get their offense, I think, back in stride, but also it's a huge bounce back game for Damon Williams Jr., who threw 3 picks in the second half last week against Michigan.
Yeah, and it's Illinois coming off of a break. They didn't play last week after they lost to Ohio State. So the biggest thing in the matchup for me is the Washington O-line against Illinois' front. Because Illinois has a good defensive line. I would say they've maybe not been quite as overwhelming as maybe I thought they could be coming into the year, but obviously Gabe Akis is very good. So that individual star pass rusher against whatever it is, even an injured offensive line starter or God forbid for Washington, a 3rd stringer that's not great. That's the kind of thing that can flip a game for you. So if Washington's getting healthier up front, that's good. We talked about this before, right? They had so many offensive line issues last year. I think they did a nice job of taking a step forward. I still don't think it's a great offensive line, but it's at least Big Ten average, probably, if not slightly better than that when they're healthy. So
I thought it would be competent, and I think it's been fairly competent when healthy.
When healthy, yeah. But I don't even know, getting guys back from injury to me is still not all the way healthy. It's better than the alternative of not having them, obviously. But I wonder if there could be any rust there, or Carver Willis plays, but is he the best version of Carver Willis kind of thing? I good for Washington that they're getting guys back. I would still think that Illinois might have the advantage with its defensive front in that matchup.
So Damon Williams Jr. threw 3 picks. The first one, he said he predetermined his read pre-snap and was just going to throw a slant, and a linebacker jumped the route underneath. And that's a first-year starting quarterback admitting I decided it in my head, and that was a mistake. The second one, he and the tight end weren't on the same page. In his zone, the tight end continued the route. Damon Williams Jr. thought he would settle in. Who read it wrong? They didn't say this week, but it's not only on him. And the third one was a downfield shot that he actually made a really nice throw on, kind of in desperation mode, and Denzel Boston dropped it and fell into Michigan guy's hands. So the bottom line is, in a game that was tied, Damon Williams Jr. threw 3 picks in the second half at Michigan. That's not the whole story, but that's what he's trying to bounce back from. And so that's kind of where I am on this game. If it lingers for him, I don't think Washington's going to win. If he is, I made mistakes, I'm going to show you how good I am. I was back working harder than ever this week. Like his offensive coordinator was even talking this week, like, yeah, like that's tough to recover from. Like they know this. This is a test for Jed Fish and everybody in that building to help Damon Williams play his best after the worst game of his career so far. So I'm going to bet that he does bounce back, but I'm also going to wimp out a little bit because I think it's enough of a toss-up. The SP Plus ratings from ESPN, Washington's 23, Illinois' 27. Like it's pretty close. A 3.5-point line. I'm going to take Illinois with the points, but I'll say Washington's going to win 27-24.
Okay. I do think there could be like a bounce back spot here. I don't think Illinois' pass defense is great, and like they've been banged up in their secondary. We know that, but if you look at some of the Duke threw it on them. I mean, obviously Indiana did, but even like USC and Purdue did. Ohio State did not, but Ohio State was also playing on short fields most of that game. At home, I think there's a chance for Damon Williams and the passing attack to like kind of get going against Illinois, but Illinois is like banging the playoff drum pretty hard. I think like Brett Bielema is already out in front of that. They've had an extra week to prepare for this. I think they do some interesting stuff defensively, some stuff that can kind of confuse a young quarterback too. So I'm going to pick Illinois on the road. 28-24.
Okay. We're going to talk about this a lot next week with the defensive coordinator now coordinating on the other side, Jim Knowles for Penn State against Ohio State. Same thing here. Ryan Walters, now the Washington defensive coordinator, made his bones as the Illinois defensive coordinator, got the Purdue head coaching job off of it. So this is, Ryan Walters knows how Illinois wants to run offense. Illinois knows how Ryan Walters wants to run defense. This is how, I like both these teams. I think both these teams are good. This is the most play-iniest of the Big Ten games, right? That I think, Washington's got Oregon left. Illinois has an easier schedule, but the winner of this definitely can win out. Like the winner of this definitely has a chance to go 10-2. So this is the win. Now you've been circumspect about the ability of Illinois to make the playoff at 10-2 with a 50-point loss to Indiana, which I think is correct. But I still think the winner of this probably emerges as the most likely fourth Big Ten playoff team if they get one.
Yeah, unless Michigan beats Ohio State. Yeah. So, okay, so we're on the same side of the bet, Illinois with the points, but we're split. I think Washington's going to win. You think Illinois is going to win. One thing I want to remind the folks of, I'm wearing my Rowback today. So this is my Rowback black hoodie, high quality. It's one of those that it's warm enough for the chilly weather, but then when you're inside, you're not sweating to death because it's not super heavy. But it's really nice. It fits really nice. It hangs nice. And this is just a black one, right? So if you want to go to rowback.com, RHOBACK.com, RHOBACK.com, you can find sort of the kind of stuff like this in the grays and the blacks and the whites and those kind of neutral colors, but they also have the game day collection. So you could get something like this hoodie, nice little drawstrings, right? Look like this. Nope. That's not the look. Not the right look for you.
That was in between sad and scary in a way that was not advantageous for me either direction. So maybe you can put your hood up. I can't. But if you go to rowback.com, they have stuff like this, with an Ohio State stripe on it, that kind of thing, or a little Buckeye leaf right here, that kind of thing. That subtle look. 20% off your first order if you put in BAD 20, BAD 20, you'll get 20% off your first order at Rowback. And that's the thing, how it hangs on you, right? How stuff hangs, hang and cling. It's why I sometimes don't love ordering stuff online, but I'm being your mannequin. So you got to get a hang and cling idea. Because sometimes I don't know. So this is a good hang and cling, right? Because it's not too clingy and it hangs nice. Because you get something and then it's oh, dang it, too clingy. You're dead.
Yeah. Got to send it back. Or throw it in a pile and never look at it again. Be I'll send that back in 4 years, see if they'll take it. Yeah. The hang and cling quotient for Rowback is really good. All right. Last Big Ten matchup, Minnesota at Iowa, 3:30 at Iowa.
Iowa's favored at home by 8.5. From a betting standpoint, I'll just say this. The last 5 games in Iowa City in this rivalry, the last one was the 12-10 Minnesota win where Cooper DeJean didn't mean to call for a fair catch, but half put his hand up because he was pointing, and he ran a punt back for a touchdown that would have won the game for Iowa, but they called it a fair catch, and everybody in Iowa went nuts. So that's a Minnesota win. And the previous 4 games to that were Iowa wins by less than a touchdown. So Minnesota has covered 8.5 in Iowa 5 straight games. I think this is a big number for a rivalry when I think Minnesota is pretty good. I've also seen there was something, just like looking at efficiency metrics and stuff this week. Iowa's defense is still like Iowa's defense. They're pretty decent, right? Do you think Iowa's defense is pretty solid?
Yes, better than I thought they were going to be this year. I thought there could have been like a pretty significant drop off there, and it's not been too bad.
And so there's the idea of like Iowa with a competent quarterback, watch out, right? Like you don't want to face that Iowa. So Iowa is 5-2. And then the question is like, where is Mark Gronowski? Is Mark Gronowski a good quarterback? Because they beat Penn State last week because Mark Gronowski ran for 130 yards. One of those was a 67-yard run in the second half that was huge, where he just ran up the middle and 2 Penn State safeties conked their heads together, and it should have been a 9-yard run, and instead it was a 67-yard run down to the 5-yard line. And it really was not. Mark Gronowski didn't do anything wrong, but it wasn't like Mark Gronowski stiff-armed 2 guys, hurdled a third, and dropped the spin move. It was like terrible tackling by Penn State. And then otherwise, Mark Gronowski last week was 10 of 16 for 68 yards. And he still has not had like a 200-yard passing game at Iowa. And so
3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
So it's just like I'm not taking anything away from Iowa, but we are treading very lightly on the watch out for Iowa when they have a competent quarterback. Like I feel like some teams have been letting Iowa get away with some stuff, and I'm not sure Minnesota's going to allow that to happen. And Minnesota coming off a 3-score win against Nebraska is an 8.5-point underdog at Iowa. I honestly am a little confused by this line and how to view it, because I think overall in neutral field, I think Minnesota's a better team.
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. I don't know. 8.5's a lot. That's the first thing I clocked when this game came up. Last year's game was a little more lopsided, but to your point, when they play in Iowa City, it's close. The other thing about Iowa was I'm not trying to take too much away from Iowa, but the combined records of the 4 FBS teams that they've beaten is 8-20. Like they've not. I think like Penn State still has talent, but a bad record. But like the other wins are UMass, Rutgers, and Wisconsin. I don't know. I just like it is such a one-note offense, and Minnesota's run defense this year has been very good. I think Minnesota on the right day can get its passing game going too with Drake Lindsay. Like you still watch him. He still makes throws that like you can definitely see it. I just like holistically I don't think they have everything they need to be like a dynamic passing offense yet, but I think they will as long as he's their quarterback into the future. So yeah, I just kind of think Minnesota's better. I think it's kind of as simple as that. And I'm not saying like the wrong team is favored because it's Iowa at home. But that just feels like too big of a number for me. So
I thought Minnesota looked good in that win over Nebraska. Again, they got the 9 sacks on Dylan Raiola, but Darius Taylor had a really nice game. Couple receivers played well. Anthony Smith on the defensive line is still a guy to get after it. And like you said, with really Drake Lindsay, you can see it coming along. I actually think, again, it's hard. This is what happens like when there's depth in a conference. And when there's depth in a conference, like it's one of those things, well, like was Iowa kind of lucky last week and Minnesota was dominant? It's like, well, that doesn't mean that Minnesota is going to be dominant this week and Iowa's going to be lucky. Like this, it could flip easily. But I think right now Minnesota is better. And I kind of think if you're looking for somebody in the Big Ten, I also think maybe you're looking at Minnesota. And their 2 losses are a goofy loss to Cal, which you don't excuse, but I don't think it's a total indication of the team they are. And then they got blown out by Ohio State, but lots of people are going to get blown out by Ohio State. But 5-2 Minnesota, at Iowa, home Michigan State, and then like a game-changing game at Oregon off a bye. I just think I bet Minnesota over 8 wins going into the year, and I just think they're looking like a 9 or 10 win team to me. And if Minnesota wins this game and then somehow could go to Eugene, I mean, like if we get to that point, and it's like we're talking about Minnesota as a 2-loss team going to Oregon. If they win the game, they're in the thick of the playoff race. Holy moly. That's a huge ask. But I kind of think Minnesota's capable of it. Like, I just think they have good pieces, and PJ Fleck's been here before, and I kind of believe in Minnesota, but that just means Kirk Ferentz is going to put him in a full Nelson and beat him 9-6.
Yeah, he could. And there's also there's a chance Iowa might have the best offensive line in the country.
You love Iowa's offensive line. They deserve flowers.
I'm not the only one. They might win the Joe Moore Award. They're the best, like just by, again, PFF is whatever you want it to be, but best run blocking team in the country and like the 5th best pass blocking team in the country. Sorry, 8th best pass blocking team in the country. They could control the game. That the Iowa offensive line could control the game, and
yes,
honestly, like be the part of Iowa that wins the game for them. So like I'm not trying to be entirely dismissive of Iowa. It's Iowa. They play good defense. They have a very good offensive line. They can run the ball. It's just that their offense doesn't look like what we expected it to be because Mark Gronowski, for whatever reason, like just cannot. They still can't throw the ball. But they can run to a win. I think they could. I just don't know that they're going to. I'm picking Minnesota.
I'm picking Minnesota too. What's your score?
20-13.
Okay. I'm 23-20.
Low total too, 39.5 this game. Not surprising. And also, we didn't mention they're playing for a pig.
Oh, yeah. Playing for a pig, that matters. And this is one of these things, again, it's like Kurt Cignetti talked about it a ton. Iowa almost beat Indiana. It's like all this other stuff is like, who is it Iowa beating? It's like, well, probably their best win is a 5-point loss to Indiana.
Correct.
That came down to the final 2 minutes. So we know how difficult it is to play there. And there are components of Iowa football that are as good as anybody you'll find. And so this is just one of those, again, does anybody nationally think that Minnesota winning on the road at Iowa is a big deal? Like, they probably should. And does anybody nationally think that Iowa moving to 6-2 by beating a Minnesota team that just knocked off a ranked Nebraska team, is that a good win? I think they should think that. Like, the winner of this is a good win. But I don't know how people will see it. This is a good game. I'd watch this. I'm going to watch this game.
Is that the night game? No, Michigan.
No, it's 3:30. Okay. Michigan State. Yeah, it probably should. Yeah, Illinois, Washington, or Minnesota, Iowa should probably be the night game. But they're opposite each other at 3:30. So this is split screen Big Ten afternoon. All right, we're going to do 2 SEC games quickly. Mid versus mid. Well, mid versus mid, and then like terrible versus probably the best team. But the mid versus mid game is Missouri at Vanderbilt. This is also at 3:30. Vanderbilt is favored at home by 2.5. Vanderbilt blew out Charleston Southern, Utah State, Georgia State. Mizzou blew out UMass, Central Arkansas, and Louisiana. But again, like you start going through this stuff, I'm not exactly sure who I'm supposed to be impressed by. I guess I'm supposed to be impressed because Vanderbilt beat LSU last week. But
come on, Missouri, man. It's Vanderbilt. Give them some credit.
No, I know. But they're also the SEC. But it's like it's great for them. It just depends like what we're talking about. Like, sure. Yay Vanderbilt fans. Awesome. Throw every goalpost in every river. Awesome. This is what they've been waiting for. Wear your Commodore gear with pride. Roback, I'm sure, has Vanderbilt stuff too. Go buy Roback stuff for Vanderbilt. Like, love it. But like, don't shove Vanderbilt down my throat as a sign of SEC power. And this is a top 10 team. And this is proof of how great the SEC is, because like, it's just, but so both these teams, again, there's a bunch of like a kind of Ole Miss, Oklahoma, we're not picking, but like Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, Missouri, I think nationally people are looking as like, oh, these are like playoff playing games. And I'm just saying Minnesota, Iowa, and Illinois, Washington are the same thing. So that's all. So just like, don't shove Vanderbilt down my throat when it feels like you're not giving Minnesota any respect. Because like, if Minnesota and Vanderbilt played on a neutral field, like, I'd take Minnesota. That's not a shot at Vanderbilt, but I get it. And their offense is great. I get it. Their offense statistically is awesome, right? Diego Pavia is a very good player. I just think they are, while being they are an overrated underdog at this point, which is like a weird thing to be. And I'm not trying to be mean. I I just don't want to live in the Vanderbilt-Missouri is like the game of the week world. So I don't know. Do you think it's the game of the week? Maybe I'm wrong. Is it the game of the week?
I think it's a fun game. Yeah,
It is.
I
I agree. It's
if
fun.
you remove all of the whatever, basically all the discussion about the game and its stakes in the SEC and whatever, like just like two teams, I think it's a fun game.
Yeah.
By the way, CFPgraphs.com, Minnesota versus Vanderbilt on the neutral field, Vandy by 9.
No, not looking at that site anymore. Sorry, Stats of War. I'm out. I just like I like Mizzou a little better on both sides of the ball. I thought Mizzou made some critical mistakes against Alabama, but otherwise probably should have won that game. Like if you want to say that, okay, so Missouri at home, Missouri might be a little bit like Washington, like at home, they're a monster, on the road, or they're the same kind of team. So I understand that, but I like Mizzou a little better. I'm going to take Mizzou 34-28, even though Vandy is the favorite.
Not many teams have run the ball super successfully against Vanderbilt. I also don't think they played many great rushing offenses. Missouri has one. Ahmad Hardy's really good, but if Vanderbilt, I will say, like in watching the Vanderbilt LSU game, it was pretty apparent to me that Vanderbilt has really beefed up its roster. Like they're, especially in the line of scrimmage, like there are offensive and defensive linemen on that team that are just like, yeah, those look like guys who would be on really good teams. So I think they'll be up for this, and I'd be worried about a hangover because the LSU win was such a huge win for that program. But they're back at home, which I think might help them avoid that some. So I'm going to pick Vanderbilt to win and cover. I have Vandy 31-27.
Okay. And again, Vanderbilt, if you win, go crazy, man. Go crazy. Congratulations. I'm not watching. Texas A&M at LSU is our last one. This is a primetime game opposite Michigan State. Michigan 7:30. LSU is a home dog, but only getting 2.5 against the only remaining undefeated team in the SEC. Bama is also undefeated in conference, but they have the non-conference loss. Texas A&M, one of 6 remaining unbeatens in FCS. I think Texas A&M is good. I think LSU is not, but I bet you there's a lot of people out there picking LSU this week.
Probably. I saw this line and I thought to myself, boy, like it must be rare for LSU to be a home dog. They were a home dog twice last year against Alabama and Ole Miss. What I could find, like going back, like they've been a home dog like in their last 32 instances of being a home underdog. They're 17-15 outright and 18-13 against the spread.
Okay.
So
you looked that up?
I looked it up just because I thought that LSU being a home underdog might be more rare than it has been. But actually, it's not, because Brian Kelly stinks. LSU's offense is terrible, averaging 20 points a game against Power 4 competition. They're awful. Garrett Nussmeier, to use one of your words, is mid. It's a tough place to play, and I think a fairly good LSU defense. But A&M has been tested. They've won some tight games. They've won on the road at Notre Dame. I think it's not going to be the prettiest game in the world, but I think A&M is going to win. I have 24-17.
Yeah, I have A&M also 24-20. They've been playing with fire, right? Like if they may, somebody's going to get them at some point. The way they've been doing it, obviously, the huge win over Notre Dame, 41-40. Auburn 16-10. Arkansas 45-42 last week. I don't know that Texas A&M is going to get through undefeated, but like, is it going to happen here? And this, like, LSU's staring down 7-5. And so I made a preseason bet with Connor O'Gara at Saturday Down South, where I said they'd start 3-3, and he said they'd win the national title. And so it was like, if neither of us are right, then nobody wins the bet. So I wasn't right, but guess what? He's not right either. So, and honestly, they're closer. Like, I thought Clemson was going to be good, so they beat Clemson. And they've had some other close games, but they're staring down the barrel of 7-5 because they are 5-2 right now. They're playing Texas A&M. They're at Bama after a bye, and then they finish at Oklahoma. So, like, Brian Kelly, Lee Corso picked LSU to win the national title. Like, this was like another sort of like, if you weren't going like with the Penn State Texas route, like LSU was kind of like not a crazy pick, but a not chalk pick. And they're not close to that. And if they go 7-5, is Brian Kelly out?
I don't know what the buyout is, but I don't know that it matters at LSU. Yeah, I would think probably so. He might choose to leave.
That could be interesting if he chose to go to one of the other open jobs, right? And just like I got a spot for Brian Kelly, son of the North,
Wisconsin.
Yeah. So, you think they'd take that up there or no?
I wouldn't want it. I think I don't. We were having a conversation like back and forth. I think last week about Brian Kelly, and people are saying like Brian Kelly's always been an average coach. I was like, well, he has won 2 national championships, and he played for a national championship at Notre Dame. Like he's won a lot everywhere he's been, except for LSU. But I do think it's possible that like the sport has passed him by. I don't. He may not have the temperament for it anymore. So I don't know that I'd be super excited to be a program in desperate need of a bounce back that hires Brian Kelly.
Yeah, he would be in the catch a falling coach basket of like, hey, remember when that guy was good, and when Brian Kelly was in his heyday, we never would have been able to get him. But now that he's kind of failed, we can get him. Isn't that great? It's like it's because he's failed. Congratulations. So yeah, maybe we would not advise that. Okay, those are our 6 picks for this week. Again, I am in need of a bounce back. Bill's still hanging in pretty strong. Not a gambling show, but we like talking about national college ball and northern college ball. We'd send you again to roback.com, BAD20. You'll get you 20% off. Like, subscribe, tell a friend, and just know that we're grateful to you guys for being here. So we will have a bunch of stuff next week. Obviously, Ohio State, Penn State, previewing that. As always, Tuesday's our playoff bracket show. We are not very far away. First week in November from the actual first playoff rankings from the committee coming out. So we would invite you guys to join us for that. But for now, thanks for being here. He's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises. And that was the Bill and Doug Show.